When I was 9 years old, I woke up in bed late at night. The light was off in my room, but the hallway light was on. I currently get sleep paralysis at least once a month, but had never experienced it at this point in my life. I looked into the hallway, and nothing was there. I began to rub my crusty eyes and looked back up to see a tall, blacker-than-black shadow figure. At first, I thought it was my dad and called out to it. It just stared at me and stayed silent. Once again, I called out, "Dad," but it remained silent and very slowly walked to the foot of my bed. One last time, I said "Dad" in a questioning manner. It began to slowly walk up the side of my bed, and I knew then that this thing wasn't my dad. I jumped up and ran to my parents' room, frantically telling my mom to turn the lights on. She took her sweet time in doing so, and I looked towards her bedroom door, only to see the shadow enter her bedroom and start slowly walking towards me. I jumped over my mom onto the other side of the bed, and the light turned on. There was nothing there, nobody at all, and my father was not in bed with her. At this point, I thought maybe I was wrong, and it was my dad, seeing that he wasn't in bed with my mom. But when I asked, my mom said that he got called to work. My dad worked on call at the time and could be called to work at any time. I thought maybe he had just gotten home, but he had not returned from work yet. It was only my mom and me there that night. I lay there, wide awake, my heart pounding in my chest. The room felt cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. I kept staring at the door, expecting the shadow to appear again, but nothing came. My mom, sensing my fear, wrapped her arms around me and tried to soothe me, telling me it was just a bad dream. But I knew it wasn't. The feeling of dread and the sight of that shadow were too real. The next morning, I tried to tell my mom again what had happened, but she dismissed it as a nightmare. She told me I had probably been dreaming, or that my imagination was running wild. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I kept thinking about the shadow, the way it moved, and the silence that surrounded it. It wasn't just a figment of my imagination. Throughout the day, I felt uneasy. Every shadow seemed to take on a menacing shape. Every creak in the house made my skin crawl. I tried to distract myself with toys and cartoons, but the memory of that night lingered in my mind. As night fell, the fear returned, and I found myself clinging to the idea that my parents were there to protect me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the darkness to creep in. The hallway light was on, but it did little to comfort me. I kept my eyes fixed on the door, praying that the shadow wouldn't return. And then, I saw it again, just a flicker at the edge of my vision. My heart raced as I watched the shadow materialize at the foot of my bed, just like before. I screamed, and my mom rushed in, flicking on the light. The shadow vanished instantly, leaving the room bathed in the harsh glow of the bulb. My mom held me, telling me everything was okay, that it was just my imagination. But I knew it wasn't. The shadow had been real, and it was still out there, somewhere in the darkness. That was the last time I saw the shadow, but the fear never completely left me. I continued to have nightmares and bouts of sleep paralysis, but none were as terrifying as that night. Even now, years later, I sometimes wake up, convinced that the shadow is still watching me. The memory of that feeling, of being paralyzed with fear and the sense of something lurking in the dark, remains vivid in my mind. What was it? A figment of a child's imagination? Or something far more sinister? I still don't know. All I know is that the shadow was real, and it changed the way I see the world. The darkness no longer feels safe, and every shadow seems to hide something just out of sight. I've never been able to shake the feeling that whatever was in my room that night is still out there, waiting in the shadows. Thanks for watching our video. Have you ever had a really scary experience? We want to hear about it. You can tell us in 2 ways. Option 1 is write down what happened and email it to us. The email address is in the description below. We're excited to read your story and learn all about what happened. And the second option is record your story using your phone's recording feature. Make sure the sound is good, with no background noise. We want to make sure everyone can hear your scary story clearly. Pick whichever option works best for you, and let's explore your spooky experiences together. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.